This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Fast Break Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, as always, is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
I'm going to hold it one day, just for like a whole minute.
The reverse pregnant pause. Because like some podcasters will do that where they'll drop it and just do that for as long as possible to make you pick up the phone. With you, it's just, I'm going to hold this as long as possible.
Pick up the phone.
Like,
check
basically,
to see, like, did it pause? Did it stop playing?
Stop?
Gotta lose
no.
data?
I'm going to do that one of these days. Is just stop and just try to hold it out for as long as one of us can take it.
Okay.
Until it breaks.
All right, I'll figure that. I mean, I'm glad you're letting us know now.
Yeah.
So now, like, come NBA season, we'll actually be able to be prepared for it. Anyways, we are starting our massively successful, highly rated, critics love it, positional rankings. This is the now, fourth year?
It's pretty incredible.
We've
Fourth
done it
year.
since 2016.
Yeah, so 2016, 2017,
Yeah,
2018,
yeah, and if you
2019.
That's how math works.
This is now the fourth annual positional rankings here on the Fast Break Podcast. They might be wrong, and we are also wrong.
They're literally controversy-free.
Everything's
like,
wrong.
everyone just agrees with us. It's,
Yes.
it's the most peaceful and quiet comment section I've ever seen in my life.
Not only do they disagree with the actual ranking of the players that are in the starting lineup, they also just disagree with the position of where we put them.
Correct.
So it's great. It's so accurate. It's so great. It's the best thing ever in the world.
Yep.
So you are getting hard, cold truth facts here. And if you have any complaints, which you won't, obviously let us know either on Twitter at MostValuePod or let us know down in the comments below. And before we get into all that, if you do want to support this factful, hard-hitting, truthful, on-the-nose podcasting, check us out on patreon.com/mostvaluepodcast. You might disagree with some of the stuff that we have here, but we did try our best, and we do try our best to give out a great product each and every week. So if you do want to support us, check us out at patreon.com/mostvaluepodcast. We got a bronze tier, a silver tier, and a gold tier, and that gold tier allows you to be on a podcast. And if you disagree with some of the stuff that we do stick to, and we aren't going to crumble on, we'll talk to you about it. We'll have a discussion about it, and it'll be a fun time. But anyways, let's jump into it, and we're going to do it a little bit different than we have done it in the past 3 years. We are going to kind of do it a little mock draft style. I'm going to go to Ricky. He's going to give his 21 through 30. I'm going to go to Dave. He's going to give his 21 through 30. I'm going to give my 21 through 30, and then we'll give the cumulative 21 through 30. And since this is the first at least episode of this style, and this is the actual intro, we'll at least tell you guys how we did it. We're going to break it up into 3 segments. We'll give our 21 through 30 starting point guards in the NBA, 1 from each team. Then we'll give our 11 through 20 starting point guards, 1 from each team. And then 1 through 10 starting point guards in the NBA, 1 from each team. Obviously, we all did one. Me, Dave, and Ricky all did a positional ranking of this variety. So we'll all have different spots for these guys, and each spot was assigned a number. So if you were the 30th worst point guard, or we think you're the 30th worst starting point guard in the league, you got a value of 1. And it goes up by 1 when it goes up the ladder. So 25, it gets 6 points. Number 1 spot gets 30 points. The second spot gets 29 points. And then all those points that you get for the position ranking that you were given, you get tallied up. So let's say the number 1 guy, if he was the unanimous number 1 guy, he gets a total of 90 points. I think I fairly explained it decently.
It's pretty good.
If you were number 1 on 2 spots and then 2 on 1 spot, you get 89 because you got 30, 30, and 29. And obviously, we then put that in order, and that's our ranking. And let's jump into it. Ricky, 21 through 30.
Well, starting off at number 30, I'm sorry, Ish Smith. I mean, I want to love you,
my
but
boy.
Somebody has to come in last, and Ish Smith for the Pistons will do that. Then at 29, DeLon Wright of the Toronto Raptors, the NBA champions. Is
So
it?
wrong.
No,
Swing and a miss.
not Memphis Grizzlies.
Swing and a miss.
Wrong.
I'm going to mess this
Those
up.
are teams
I
he
don't have
has
the
played
teams
for.
down here.
Those are teams
He
he played
is
for.
a Dallas Maverick.
Dallas Maverick, DeLon Wright. Jeff Teague of the Timberwolves, remember that one. Then I don't know if I have him too high. Maybe this is Bulls homerism coming out.
It
Chris
is.
Dunn at 27. Terry Rozier of the
Boston
Charlotte
Celtics.
Hornets. I know that one. Is now at 26. Orlando Magic point guard DJ Augustine.
Of the Texas Longhorns.
Texas Longhorns at 25. DeJounte Murray coming back off of his injury at 24. Justice Winslow of the Miami Heat at 23. Eric Bledsoe
Phoenix
at
Suns.
22, and then Dennis Smith in the New York Knicks
the
at
Mavericks.
21.
Dallas Mavericks starting point guard. Dave, try to give your 21 through 30. We said we were going to try to be factual, then come out of the gates.
Just
we get it wrong.
dropping bombs like that, Ricky.
21 through 30, Dave.
Can I just, before I get started, I'm just going to say there are a couple guys who were kind of contested for the position of point guard, so I'm just going to point that out here as we go through these ratings. Number 30, I did have Chris Dunn. He is the worst starting point guard in the league, should he remain a starting point guard. At 29, I do have my boy Ish Smith, and at 28, it's Dennis Smith Jr. I don't know how long that's going to last either. Gonna get a lot of Knicks love this episode, I feel. At 27, Jeff Teague. At 26, DJ Augustine. At 25, one of those contested spots at Rajon Rondo. We heard LeBron James is going to be the point guard. I'm still not holding my breath on that one. We'll see, though. We'll see. At 24, I've got Collin Sexton. 23, Reggie Jackson. 22, Terry Rozier. And at 21, DeLon Wright.
The Toronto Raptor great, DeLon Wright.
Jesus.
I will give Ricky credit, though. He was traded from Toronto to Memphis in the Valanciunas Gasol trade, and then he just
I knew
recently
Memphis
signed.
coming out was wrong because I'm like, no, John Morant's the Memphis point guard.
Yeah, Dallas was the answer, and I'll give my 21 through 30. At 30, I have Ish Smith. I love the guy. He's a great bench point guard, but he is a bench point guard. Then at 29, I have Chris Dunn. Literally, he's just younger than Ish Smith, so maybe there's more hope. 28, I have DJ Augustine of the Orlando Magic. 27, I have Dennis Smith Jr. 26, I have my favorite player in the NBA, Reggie Jackson. And 25, I have the Memphis Grizzly Toronto Raptor. We'll just call him the Memphis Raptor, DeLon Wright. Then at 24, I have Jeff Teague of the Timberwolves. Then at 23, I have Rajon Rondo of the Los Angeles Lakers. 22, Terry Rozier of the Charlotte Hornets. And 21, John Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies. And that now leads us to the true 21 through 30. These are the final spots for these players after we tallied them all up. At 30, Ish Smith. Thank you, Ish, for playing. But you are technically not even the Washington Wizard point guard, as John Wall is just injured. So you are there by default.
Yep.
Great player, though. We love you. Come on the podcast anytime. Then at 29, we have Chris Dunn. 28, we have Jeff Teague. 27, we have DJ Augustine. Augustine and Teague tied for 14 points, but two guys put them above. Two guys, Ricky and Dave, put Augustine above Teague. So that's why Augustine gets the 27 spot and Teague gets the 28 spot. At 26, we have Dennis Smith Jr. 25, we have DeLon Wright. At 24, we have Terry Rozier. At 23, we have Reggie Jackson. At 22, we have Rajon Rondo. And at 21, a player that is not in any of our lists from 21 through 30, but still somehow ended up at 21, Collin Sexton.
I don't even understand that.
Oh, wait, no, you have him. You have him at 24. Collin Sexton, you have him at 24. So you tanked him. You tanked Collin Sexton. Collin Sexton at 21, coming in with 29 points. So you are the reason why Collin Sexton is not in the next video. What?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Do you disagree with your own rankings?
No, I'm laughing at the fact that you guys didn't have him in your bottom 10.
Well, let's talk before we talk about that, because I think we have a lot of conversations. I think the first one should just be at least the idea of putting Rajon Rondo there. You brought it up. Should LeBron James be the point guard for the Los Angeles Lakers?
I think he's going to spend the majority of his time playing with the ball in his hands. Does that make him a point guard at this day and age of the NBA? No, because you go back to the old belief of you are who you guard. And I don't see LeBron James guarding ones out there.
John Stan out there.
John Stan.
Woodson.
Thank you.
What he.
But yeah, no, it seems like lineup wise, yes, they're going to run with some bigger guys out there, but ideally Rondo out there did work, and I think Rondo with LeBron James works pretty well. The whole thing is just as long as they're shooting around them to support it, because you get those games where Rondo goes out there and they're just going to laugh at him behind the three-point line. And he'll take 7 3-pointers in the first half to be like, you can't do that to me. I'm going to take the shot anyway. I'm not Ben Simmons. And he'll miss, 5 of them, but still, at least take them.
That's 6 points, man. If you take miss 5 out of 7, that's still 6 points.
I mean, he's definitely older. I dig his game, though. Like, he's an old man, plays good defense when he tries, and is one of the best passers we've ever seen.
Ricky, I know we had a conversation before, and I told you to save it for the podcast. You think they're better off with Rajon Rondo in the starting lineup?
Yeah, and I mean, the reason why is it depends on what you want that second unit to look like. Do you want that second unit to be led by Rajon Rondo, which wouldn't be a bad thing, Rondo being the vet, but it's not like how he was in Chicago. It wasn't Rondo leading a bunch of young guys. Like, you've got Avery Bradley out there and KCP and Jarrett Dudley, and it's like, with me personally, I feel like let Rondo be the defensive guy to play with LeBron, with AD, even with Danny Green out there in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
And then have Kyle Kuzma kind of be the lead of the twos and just let him massacre two second lineups and not starting lineups.
The reason why I think that I kind of crumbled under it just being because LeBron has always been a point forward and he's not technically a point guard. So that's why I said, let's just put Rajon Rondo there. But I honestly think that their best lineup would be running LeBron at that one and having him out there, having Danny Green out there, having Kuzma out there, having AD out there, and then having DeMarcus Cousins out there because Kuzma gives you a better shot from the outside than Rajon Rondo does. And that's exactly what you're looking for in that lineup. And you need to have AD out there. You need to have LeBron out there. Yeah. And you need to have DeMarcus out there. I mean, I know DeMarcus wasn't fantastic in Golden State. We didn't know if that's truly Boogie. But if he does ever hit 100%, he is easily their third best player in that lineup, and you need to have him out there.
Yep.
So in my mind, you need to be able to space out that lineup, and Kuzma will allow you to do that at a more efficient rate, and also just at a more effective rate than Rajon Rondo will allow you to do. Now, how will you actually go about guarding that lineup, at least, or how would you go about playing defense using that lineup? That would be a difficult task because you really don't have a true one out there. You don't have a true two out there. But I think that is your most talented starting lineup.
I mean, you still have Danny Green. I mean, he can guard anything out there.
But he can only guard one player.
Exactly.
Right? So who's going to guard the two?
Kuzma gets burned defensively anyway. So you just, you prey on giving people the turnstile and running into Anthony Davis. Like that just funnel your defense through Anthony Davis is their best bet.
That's the thing that you have two guys out there that can play defense. Because Boogie is aggressive, but he's not a great defender.
Right.
And that's the thing that I think you have the most talent out there. But I think cohesively, Rondo at least allows you to have a guy who can naturally guard each position. AD can obviously guard fours. Boogie can obviously guard fives. LeBron obviously guards threes. Danny Green obviously guards twos. Rondo guards ones. That's typical, normal NBA, very linear. But talent-wise, I think you gain so much more having Kuzma out there because it isn't the same Rondo. And Rondo isn't this lights-out shooter from three. And in the end of it, I think that you just need to be able to have your stars out there. And Kuzma's more of a star than Rondo. And you bring up a point about, Kuzma attacking second units of other teams, but I look at it and I still think you have a decent second unit. You still have Rajon Rondo. You still have Avery Bradley, who's been effective. Somewhat.
Yeah, he's hit or miss.
Well, he wasn't good when he first got traded to the Clippers, but then he left and he was decent in Memphis. Yeah. So you think that maybe he still has something left in the tank, and you still have KCP. You still have JaVale McGee. You still have Jared Dudley. That's a decent second unit. It's
I like Quinn
great.
Cook in that second unit.
Quinn Cook as well.
Give me Quinn Cook and Kuzma.
You take out Dudley.
And the scoring there never stops. That's my thing. Is a lot of these playoff teams, their second unit, they're not as deep as most other teams, and especially this Lakers. If you can have a second unit with Quinn Cook, a guy who can score as efficiently and as well as he does, he has no off switch. He's on the court. He's aggressive. He's looking for shots. And having Kuzma as a 1-2 punch off the bench, I'm all about that game because neither of those guys can defend. So, it's just going to be a scoring matchup out there. And you're going to obviously get some mixed lineups with some of the starters mixed in there. But
could you make the argument for Quinn? Because I was going to throw out Quinn Cook, but I was going to say, could you make the argument that if you're a person that's no, I want Rondo in the second unit, not the first unit, okay, that's fine. Could you make the argument for, hey, we could try Quinn Cook in the starting lineup at point guard because the only reason why he didn't start in Golden State is because he had the golden boy in front of him. There's no way he was going to start over Steph Curry.
He's much, 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 much worse.
Yeah, I know.
Curry.
Oh, I know. But it's now with this Laker team, if you're going to move LeBron to the three.
No, he's not. No.
He's not a facilitator. He's not that great of a shooter. He's a good bench scorer, but he's not a starter.
Point guard, but he wouldn't be bringing the ball up.
Yeah,
he's staying behind the 3-point line and taking shots.
Yeah.
He's not a starter yet. He hasn't shown that yet, and he was playing on a absolutely stacked team and had a lot of opportunities to step up.
Kind of started to show it the season of 2017-2018.
He had a flash.
And then, boom, injured. And then that's why he only played 33 games that year.
I didn't see much out of him, even when he did get a shot in the true starting lineup, when Steph was down and stuff like that. I never saw it out of Quinn Cook. That's why I forgot about him when I was running through that Laker lineup. I think that ultimately when it comes down to crunch time, though, I think you're going to see Kuzma out there with LeBron, and you're going to see them out there with Danny Green. You're going to see them out there with AD and DeMarcus.
That could be a flexible playoff lineup for sure.
Yeah, I think their best lineup is with Rondo on the bench and those 5 guys out there on the floor. But I mean, at least for...
On the upside, likely all those guys you listed, there's a chance that half of them won't be on this team by the time the playoffs happen. LeBron teams, right? Am I right, Griff?
Griff.
I think that's a fair point. And really, Rondo is, I think his best ability is moving the ball around, and LeBron does that well enough. So that's why I think you don't really need Rondo in there. But let's move to the next guy, and I think it has to be Collin Sexton since we kind of went away from him. You ranked him at 24. Why so low?
He is a mystery because I want to give him the credit for how he finished out the year. Shooting incredibly well, scoring in the mid-20s for that last portion of the year. But at the same time, I feel like half of that can be fool's gold over time. We expected Collin Sexton to be this huge effort guy, decent defender in college, comes out and is a terrible defender. Offensive game struggled from a shooting percentage. Didn't seem like they got in great sets for him. And then late in the year, he did go on a very successful run, but how much of that do I believe? And now, as a 6'2" guard, how well is he going to be out there with the newest draft pick of the Cavaliers in Darius Garland? Mm-hmm. It adds more questions to my mind than I have answers. So my rankings kind of defer to, I'm going to give him a notch down over some guys who have some more experience over him. He's a second year. He'll be coming into his second year now. So, yes, there's a chance that he can keep striving off of that end of last year's success, but there's also a chance that he returns back to what we saw for the majority of last year.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give him credit because we always make it to be 30 games, but you look at his last 46, so nearly pretty much
half the season.
Pretty much half the season. Yeah. You look at that back half, 46 games, 33.4 minutes played, 43% from the field, 41% from 3, 81% from the line, 3.2 assists, 0.6 steals, 0.1 blocks per game, 18.3 points per game. I look at him and I think that we have to think about what he came into, and you were expecting possibly LeBron James to be on that team because he was still drafted when LeBron was out there.
Collin Sexton, what do you like to say to LeBron James to get him to stay in Cleveland? What the fuck is your problem, draft night?
He was still out there in a possible LeBron Cleveland era. He was still thinking that was before the Kevin Love extension, but then you get the Kevin Love extension. You think that he's going to be available and to be helping that team. You get a new regime as well out there, coaching-wise, since Ty Lue left. I think it's fair that we could probably write that first half of the season off just because he had a lot to go through, and we saw the real player for over 46 games last year that I think that he can be. And yes, some of those numbers might be inflated because he didn't have a lot of players to bounce off of on that team. But also, I think you can make the argument the fact that he took that growth shooting-wise from the outside is something that is very important.
Yeah.
No one thought that he could be a plus shooter from the outside, and he shot well over 40% from there. And yes, it wasn't at a blazing, attempts per game of 6 to 7 attempts per game, but he was at 2.4, which is still a solid rate. And his free throw percentage was really good at 81.2%. So I still look at him, and I think his offense is definitely there. And I think a big thing that he had over college guys was that speed, and he still has that, but I think his speed kind of gave him also a little bit of an edge in intensity, and I don't think he found that until later half of the year.
Yeah.
So yes, he might not be a plus defensively right now. I still think he has that work ethic to get to that point. And I think if we're looking at that back half, I think we still have to say he's better than some of these guys. He might not be better than Terry Rozier, who I have over him. He might not be better than Ja Morant, but I'll get to my reason for putting Ja that low in a little bit. But he's better than DeLon Wright, who's been mostly largely a backup throughout his whole career. He's better than Jeff Teague. He's better than Reggie Jackson. He's better than Dennis Smith Jr. He's better than Chris Dunn. He's better than Ish Smith. If you're giving Trae Young that plus for his offensive performance, you have to give something to Collin Sexton for what he did in that second half. And I understand that Trae Young has that passing attack to himself.
Passes the ball.
Yeah, that's fine. But he also has players to pass the ball too. And I'm not saying Collin Sexton is near the level of a facilitator that Collin Sexton is. Clearly, there is a huge gap there. But there's also a gap in my ratings. I had Trae Young all the way at 9. I have Collin Sexton at 20. That's a fair split there. But Collin Sexton showed that he can be a high-level scorer in the NBA to a 22 to 18 point per game scorer in his first season. He can still take a growth.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I'll spoil it, Collin Sexton's at 20 for me. The reason why I had him just out of this range, though, isn't anything to do with Collin Sexton. It's to do with guys who are in this range, like Justice Winslow. Last year was the first year we got to see him at the point guard position. Before I kind of crown your ass, show me what you can do in year 2, maybe as the entire year point guard for the Miami Heat. Now, Jimmy Butler will play into that as well because now he's got to play with Jimmy. DeJounte Murray coming off of an injury. How are you going to be in your season coming off of it? And then even guys like Dennis Smith Jr., where it's like, are we going to see a grow this year? Like, those are just 3 players that have the potential to me with good seasons to jump into that top 20. And if they do, Collin Sexton gets probably knocked back to 23-24 where Dave has him.
I don't know. For me, it comes down to, if you're my point guard and you can't facilitate, are you really a point guard? Like, that's... I'm sorry. Like, you mentioned, and I will give him the asterisk for, like, yes, your teammates aren't amazing, but his assist number is abysmal. And I don't understand, it was a big question taking Darius Garland here because we all were like, you guys, you know that, like, Darius Garland wasn't a great passer, in his 5 games of college either, but, who's going to move this ball around this offense? Because we just saw a bunch of hero ball out of Collin Sexton taking threes to end the season. And that's okay, but, like, you have to show me that you can figure out how to move the ball around in this offense. And obviously now he is a fantastic head coach. And if you can't get it done with a new regime and, a slightly retooled roster this year, if that assist number doesn't jump, I'm like, cool, you're just a really good scoring guard.
Yeah, I've always seen him as a 2, but he's just too small to play the 2. And now drafting Garland, I mean, you pretty much have the same player, back to back. I think Garland probably is more of a natural shooter than Collin Sexton, as Collin Sexton's more of a driver using his speed and attacking. But I still see them both as undersized too. And yes, the passing does concern me, but I'm not saying he's going to be a top 10 guard ever in his career. But I think that he is at least a better scorer than Lonzo Ball. He's a better scorer than DeJounte Murray. He's a better scorer than Ricky Rubio. He's a better scorer than Pat Beverly. Like, he's a better scorer than these guys. The reason where he lacks are very clear, defense and passing, but that doesn't mean he cannot grow as a 20-something-year-old. So that's why I think if we're giving this much credit to Ja Morant, who hasn't even put on a jersey yet, putting him in the top 15, I think we can give Collin Sexton credit for dropping 18 in the league. I don't care if it's a bad team or not. He still did it efficiently. He did it more efficiently than your number 3 guy, Russell Westbrook, on a bad team. I mean, Collin Sexton had a fairly decent season. And yes, he didn't have a triple-double like Russell Westbrook did. But scoring 18 efficiently is something that is definitely worth something in the NBA. And yes, he's not that great of a passer right now as a point guard, but I also don't see him as a point guard. I see him more as a 2 guard. We're putting him in the point guard situation just because I think he is smaller than Darius Garland, and literally no one else can bring up that ball on that team. So he is the best.
Larry Nance Jr. is basically the point guard of that offense.
He's the best at being bad. I mean,
or Jetty.
He's the best at, I don't know.
The only other thing I want to throw in about Collin Sexton is basically college and NBA, we have yet to see Collin Sexton on a team that has the pieces around. Could even think back to college where it was like the only reason he had 3.6 assists per game was it was like, well, who does Alabama have? Oh, they've got Collin Sexton. Like, the game where they all fouled out against Minnesota. He's like, fuck it, 5v3, all on me. And, like, that was his season in college. So it's like, even with the Cavs, it's like,
I know Dave
who
do they have on their team is not an excuse. John Morant put up 10 assists a game in college with
against worse competition.
Yeah,
okay,
but I mean,
Trae Young put up how many assists a game in college? Like,
yes,
but Trae Young's also, we already established that he's a better facilitator.
I want to take away the who and John Morant's as an excuse.
It's not everything, but it is in a scorer's mentality. It's like, well, you know what? If I don't have faith that you're going to get the ball in the hoop, I'm going to fucking do it. Like, and that's what I think is part of it with both teams. It's like, he's got that scorer's mentality and doesn't trust the people around him because really, like you said, they extended K-Love. Oh, he's going to have K-Love, and he didn't have K-Love.
It's definitely not a scenario where, who do you have around you is a necessary blame because he's making all these passes and then these guys just suck and are missing shots. It's definitely not that scenario. He is not a natural facilitator. Right. I agree with that. But also I think it's tough to fully judge him on what he can be at his best on a good team because he's not on a good team yet. And yeah, you make a point about Ja Morant. Obviously, he was phenomenal with low-level talent on going up against that low-level talent, but then also on his team.
Yeah, being able to carry them into the tourney.
Yeah, and even winning a game.
Yep.
Or nearly winning a game. They lost.
They won a game. They won and done.
Yeah, they won a game. So I mean, even winning a game there, he clearly has that next level ability of a facilitator. I don't think Collin Sexton has that, but I think he can be decent enough and still putting up 18 points per game. I think is something great.
So I think next year at this time it's going to be Darius Garland, Sexton at the 2 probably.
Yeah, like if we were comparing Collin Sexton versus Devin Booker, like clearly Booker obviously has a better scoring ability, but Booker was also able to add that facilitating level to his game. Collin Sexton needs to be able to do that because Booker is the only reason why I think he's up so high on our shooting guard rankings is because he is dropping 7 to 8 assists per game on a bad team where Collin Sexton hasn't been able to do that yet. But again, he's still young, so I think that's why I'm giving a little bit more leeway to him.
He's got room to grow for sure, though.
Let's move to number 29. Obviously, going to the place that we're currently in Chicago.
Yeah,
a little bit of a discussion that we had. We originally had Thomas Satoransky in this mix, but I ended up kind of pushing for Chris Dunn. He started in 44 of 46 games at point guard for the Bulls last year. You were even making an Arcidiacono push. So who the hell's starting for the Bulls here at point guard?
No, I wasn't making an Arcidiacono push. My point was basically because you had brought up, he started this many games of last year, and it's like, yeah, last year, who were you going to start, Chris Dunn or Archie? And Archie's not a starter, so that was my point. We literally did not have another point guard.
Shaq Harrelson
we did. We had Pooh and Shaq, but at the same time, I'm not starting those guys every day over Chris Dunn.
Lemon, Junior.
And unless, sometimes, Zach's going to play the point today.
Yeah.
We have a conundrum in Chicago where I think Chris Dunn starts the year at point guard. I don't think he ends the year at point guard because I feel like Satoransky's interesting. He creates some interesting lineups, but he can also play the 2 or the 3. He's versatile in that sense. I think Kobe White is by the end of the year, if everything goes right, he's the point guard for this team. He's the one starting at point guard. But right now, after seeing his shot in Summer League and going, 3 for 30 in Summer League from beyond the arc, step back inside the arc. Beautiful. Puts it in. Take a shot outside the arc. It didn't go in for Kobe White. And he also doesn't have the leadership yet that you want at that point guard position to where Chris Dunn, is he hot garbage? We like to think he is, but to me, he's not the worst. There are worse than Chris Dunn. Is he great? No. Especially offensively, he's terrible. But what he brings defensively, I don't think he's the worst point guard, but he's not the best in the league, and he's probably not going to be the starter towards the end of the season, depending how Kobe White develops.
I see him as a decent bench guard in the NBA. I don't think he's offensively terrible. I mean, he's still a plus shooter from the outside. He's not taking a ton of shots, but
it depends on what you look at.
Massively.
The stats of points per game and everything, his shooting percentages is good, but once you look at offensive win shares, that's where it's it's not so hot. So it's is he terribly offensive? No, but his offense isn't, I'll say it's not consistent enough in my sense. Where defensively, I would say he's more consistent defensively than he is offensively.
Yeah, I mean, was at a negative 0.5 last year, which isn't crazy. I mean, he's not, like you said, he's not an offensive savant, but I don't think he's bad offensively. I mean,
his true shooting percentage was 48%.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was not good.
How was it 48%?
I don't know. So I'm literally just looking at the stat.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, well,
because it takes in 2-point, 3-point, and free throws, but he all had decent percentages from the line. He shot 42% from the field, which isn't that good. But then he shot 35% from 3, which is above league average, and they shot 80% from the line, which is fairly decent.
Yeah.
It's something next level for true shooting. 60% and above is next level.
That's incredible. Yeah.
And then around league average is around 50, I think 55. So he's a little bit under league average.
Yeah. It's just the flow of the offense for me. I like Chris Dunn as a player.
That's the thing. I don't think he's bad offensively. I just don't think he fits this offense.
Right. And the one kind of bummer out of last year is that he got hurt, and we didn't really get to see him with the new lineup with Otto Porter in it. And that's where things changed a lot because we didn't really have a true 3 out there. who could shine. We were, trying to jam in Jabari Parker as a 3, which if you watch this, our videos from last year, I tried to tell myself that Jabari Parker somehow would lose some fucking weight and play the 3, but that did not work out. Point being, our lineup now, if we have Lowry healthy, if we have Otto Porter and Zach LaVine, we're stretching that floor out. So Chris Dunn might have some better effectiveness this year running the offense, because last year he would drive in that mid-range and then pull up, and it would just get so crowded because Zach LaVine has a very similar game. Mm-hmm. And when you have both of your guards not having, the green light from 3 right away, it crashes in everybody, and it just congests up the court, especially in the post. So I think that him being our point guard this year, I think he might hold on to it all season. The only question, I like Satoransky a lot more, but like Ricky said, he is versatile. He can kind of fill in wherever, and I'm sure he will. But if this team is trying to make a playoff push, if they can stay healthy, I don't know if Kobe White's going to be a guy who could step into a lineup. That would be a big step forward for him. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think Chris Dunn will do okay this year. Out of this starters list, yeah, that's where I see him.
And the big thing too with Chris Dunn is it is a contract year, and you listen to John Paxson. You listen to John Paxson talk, and it sounds like Chris Dunn is kind of checked out, and he doesn't he's kind of sick of trying to prove himself, and he's kind of in this place of just despair. He's not really pushing that much because he feels like he doesn't have a place to go now that they drafted Kobe White. It seems like, this is the end of Chris Dunn in Chicago. I think, though, if he goes to a different team, it could be something that reinvigorates him and resparks him. I think he's definitely a decent player. I think he's going to be in the league after this stint in Chicago. Oh, yeah. And I wouldn't be shocked if this team, we see come February, this team isn't in the playoff hunt. If that happens, I could definitely see him being taken out, and then obviously, give Kobe White a shot, because what else is there left to lose? But I think you'll have to definitely be out of the playoffs, because I think Chris Dunn at least gives you what you want, and if you are able to fully stretch out that lineup, I think he does help.
And that's how you subsidize, your Zach LaVine deficiencies of defense. You can't have someone out there who can't cover for Zach's guy.
Mm-hmm. Let's move to 27 now. It's DJ Augustine. I think the big conversation to be had here is DJ Augustine or Markelle Fultz, because the trade for Markelle Fultz, we hear about, him now working off massively through the offseason. It seems like he's back. He didn't play a single game for Orlando Magic, but if he's healthy, who's your starting point guard?
If he's healthy?
If he's healthy.
I'm starting Markelle. I'm a bold man. I like DJ Augustine. I know we give him a lot of shit because Orlando Magic, but
yeah.
I think Augustine, the best thing about him is the dude knows his own game. He knows his limitations. He's an excellent shooter. He doesn't take shots away from guys, though. He's not jamming up a ton of volume.
He hit a big shot.
He hit a big shot, and that was pretty solid. But at the end of the day, that young team, so young, so long, so interesting. I want to go upside. I want to go with the youngest triple-double ever, Markelle Fultz.
Ricky, what do you think?
Beginning of the year, he's not starting for me, only because this is a guy that we have said numerous times, no matter who you listen to, that there's a possibility that it could be mental when it comes to Markelle, him getting into his head a little bit too much. If that's the case, I'm going to kind of ease him into things. If everything is true, like Aaron Gordon calling him a monster out there, I want to ease him in. It's we've got Augustine out there. He'll be the point. We'll work in Fultz with the second unit. And then if he shows good things, you can segue him into the starting lineup, because I kind of feel like Magic, I almost want to say Magic fashion, because before they were a playoff team last year, they were top of the draft. It would be let's throw him in the starting lineup. And then he just crumbles. And I don't want that to happen to Markelle Fultz. Get into his head again, ease him in, let him work with the second unit, then let him work to that starting spot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you can't throw him right into the fire, and that's definitely fair, because we haven't seen him in a Magic uniform at all. But at least when it comes down to when he is fully healthy, let's say he's healthy, he's played his games. Do you think that Markelle Fultz can be a starting point guard in Orlando?
I don't know. There's a part of me that wants to just, there's a part of me that's yeah, sure, you got to put him in the starting lineup. But then there's a part of me that's you know what? If Augustine's doing good with that starting lineup, let Markelle be regular season-wise, be out there with the second unit, and just kind of be that player to where it's you're making teams mismatch for the okay, we got to have someone. We're not going to start this guy. we got to have this guy come out and play with the second unit because Markel's leading that second unit. We can't put in ours because then Markel will kind of take a game over in that second unit and push the score to where it's like, oh, we're down by 15 now to the Magic, where he's basically dominating second units and leading the second unit of the Magic team.
Interesting.
But why wouldn't you want to put that dangerous of a player into the starting lineup?
Because what they already have starting it depends on how their starting unit's playing. If their starting unit is playing well, why fix what isn't broken? When you can add him to a second unit, he'll go up against weaker players because they're bench players, not starters. And then whether it's regular season or playoff, if it's even a playoff game, he's going up against a weaker unit to where it's like, okay, we're down 5. Markel played with the second unit this little bit of stretch, and he can flip games to where it's like we went from down 5 to up 7.
So you think he has like Spencer Dinwiddie,
Yeah.
Lou Will even upside?
Yeah, he
to
could
run
be
a
like
second
that
unit?
to the Magic, to where it's like, why put all of the eggs in one basket when you can give your second unit kind of a spark to where teams have to game plan for that?
Because they were the AC with this lineup, but all right.
I mean, with Markel, are they going to be anywhere higher? Like how much higher?
Yeah, well,
they could
you're
be,
describing
but
them like they
how,
could be.
How much higher do you think they're going to be with Markel? That's the thing. I don't think Markel in this lineup makes them like a 5th seed. Like if that was the case, then yeah, he's a starter.
I wanted to have this conversation because I know Orlando Magic fans are all hype about Markel Fultz on Twitter.
Absolutely.
I love the damn kid. I thought he was the best player in that draft. Clearly he's not. I just hope he's able to bounce back. And if he's able to come back healthy, I think, if he's able to show that he's able to work with the second unit, he's able to work a little bit with the first unit. If he's able to show that he's back fully healthy and can add something to the outside, I would throw him in the starting lineup, because if we're talking about this being a mental problem, or not a mental problem, but at least an anxiety issue or anything like that,
just the yips,
whatever you want to call it. I think with Markel Fultz, I think you need to give him that confidence. And being in Orlando, there'll be less pressure than being in Philadelphia, being a part of the process. Orlando will take off some of that pressure, and being in that starting lineup will at least give you some confidence that, hey, maybe I'm back on the right track. And I think you definitely have to look towards putting him back in the starting lineup. One final guy I want to talk about before we just open it up, if you guys have any other thoughts. DeLon Wright, currently the starting point guard that we have down for the Mavericks. Is that going to be the case at the end of the year? Because I really liked what I saw from Jalen Brunson. I also liked what I saw from JJ Barea playing next to Luka Doncic. Obviously, Barea hurt himself last year. We're not sure on the timetable of Barea's return. He is older, so it's definitely going to be tough to recover from that injury that he had. But where does DeLon Wright stand? How does he help Luka Doncic? And what can this lineup look like with Luka and DeLon next to each other?
I don't know. I think I'm with you as far as I'm not 100% sure he's going to end up being the starting point guard all year, because we did see that great success out of JJ. We did see Jalen Brunson step in and play really well. And I like Jalen Brunson with Luka together, but they went out and paid for DeLon Wright, which makes me believe that they want him to be there. They want him to be the guy next to Luka. He's a good slashing point guard. His outside shot's not fantastic, but he is able to facilitate pretty well. He's able to go get rebounds. He's a bigger guard. I think that he's versatile, and that's exactly what they're looking for out of that backcourt, because, you've got Luka at the 2, who is, 6'7" and big and strong, and, he does need to lose some weight, but that's not the point here. I just had to bring it up. But, yeah, I think that they really liked DeLon Wright in the game that he brought, especially in the last 20 games. He was putting up 14 points a game, 6 assists, just shy of 6 boards, shooting 45% from the field. That's solid. The problem is that 3-point shots got a lot of work required. But on the upside, you got great shooters and great facilitators already. So if you add someone who is a big guard, who can play aggressively, who can slash aggressively off Luka's creative passing, I like that. I like what it could be.
All right, final thoughts. You guys want to throw out anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, the only final thought I have is going off of the DeLon Wright thing is I think he will be the starter, because obviously they're thinking about the JJ Barea injury, and really it's you look at the stats. If he can come in and do what JJ Barea did, where JJ had 10 points per game, if DeLon Wright gives us the 12 that he was averaging, that's great, but he's also going to give him around 5 assists. He actually rebounds a little bit more than Barea, And
because it's bigger. It's
yeah, and Barea
10
was
inches larger.
Yeah, and Barea also wasn't a guy that was shooting it lights out from 3. He was in the upper 20s as well.
The whole thing with Barea was he was spelling Dennis Smith Jr. And look up Dennis Smith Jr.'s number if you don't mind with the Mavericks. I don't have a laptop with me, so I can't do it. But
I've got it.
I think what was Dennis Smith doing last year?
He had with the Magic, it was
Mavericks.
12.9 a game, 4 assists, 3 boards.
Okay. And those numbers are better than what JJ Barea was doing, like you said. DeLon Wright was putting up 12 points per game, but the offense didn't flow. Where Luka wasn't getting his shots, he wasn't able to move the ball around. His assist numbers were down. Guys weren't getting open looks when Luka was finding them. JJ Barea made the whole offense flow. So DeLon Wright can score, provide more scoring for you. But in the end, it's all about that offense flowing around Luka.
Yeah, JJ was just running like crazy too. He was just a man in motion, and Jalen Brunson was able to stretch out the floor for them, which was kind of nice. But at the same time, he never got stationary. Like, he learned from JJ. It's like, this is how we play well with Luka.
Exactly. And one thing with DeLon, although he's extremely athletic, and Toronto fans loved him, he is a bigger guard. So will he be able to do that? Will he have the conditioning to continue that? I think this offense in the end might be better with Jalen Brunson or JJ Barea starting, but we'll have to end up seeing. Because I think DeLon Wright probably has more potential as a true starting guard, but I don't know if it's just on this team, because Luka obviously is going to take precedence over this along with KP. But let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. You guys got anyone else you want to throw out in 21 to 30? Should we get to 11?
I think it's hilarious that we just disrespect Jeff Teague like this. Why are you taking shots away from Cat? Why are you taking inefficient shucker shots away from Cat? You weren't even your best point guard on the team last year. You got outshined by Derrick Rose, who for half the year couldn't make a 3-point shot because he had bone spurs.
No, it was for half of the games he played. Yeah. Because he played like 51 games. So like half of those games he was trash for it. And then the other half he was a god at shooting threes. But yeah, shout out Jeff Teague. And shout out to the Toronto Grizzly, DeLon Wright. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below.